Welcome to Looks at Books. I'm your host, Clint Lorman. This is where I come to discuss all the books that I've grown to love, I've read and enjoyed. This particular book I read when I was in middle school. It came out in 1998, and it was around the time we were all reading it. It was actually, I think it was one of the AR books that we were able to read. If you don't know, AR stands for Accelerated Reading. It's a program down here in the South that we do. Kids gain points off of taking tests on books that they love, that they read. This is a young adult novel written by Louis Sachar, Sachar, and first published in 1998. Like I said, it centers on a boy named Stanley Yelnats. Yelnats is a palindrome of his name. It's just his name backwards, and it's actually a name that's been carried on from his in his family for like four generations. He gets falsely accused of stealing shoes that are being used in a charity auction, uh, and he gets sent to Camp Green Lake, this correctional facility for youngsters. So that's the setup for the plot. But there's also a couple of subplots going on, like some backstory going on at the same time that are directly connected to the present day plot. One of the backstory plots is about Ilya Yelnats, a 14-year-old boy who lives in Latvia. He's in love with Myra Minke, the most beautiful girl in the village. Myra's father has decided that she should marry when she turns 15 in 2 months, so 57-year-old Igor Barkov offers his fattest pig to Myra's father in exchange for her hand. So yeah, Ilya has this rival for this girl's hand in marriage. Ilya asks his friend, Madame Zeroni, an old Egyptian fortune teller with a missing foot, for help, and Zeroni advises Ilya to go to America like her son, but when she sees his sorrow, she pities Ilya and gives him a runt piglet. Then she tells him to carry it to the top of the mountain every day and sing a special song while it drinks from a stream that runs uphill. If he does this, his pig will be fatter than any of Igor's. So Madame Zeroni says that in return, Ilya must then carry her up the mountain. Okay, he's got to carry Madame Zeroni up the mountain and sing to her while she drinks from the stream. She warns him that if he does not, his family will be cursed. So, what does he do? He follows her advice up until the last day. That's when he decides he's going to uh, take a bath instead. And so he leaves Madame Zeroni. When that happens, his pig is the exact same weight as Igor's, and then Elia, uh, and Myra, the girl who he's wanting to marry, she can't decide which of them to marry, and that's when Elia realizes like Madame Zoroni was right about Myra. He tells her to keep his pig and, forgetting his promise to Madame Zoroni, leaves for America. Yeah. He marries the kind and intelligent Sarah Miller, but is continually beset by bad luck. The song that he sang to the pig becomes a lullaby passed down by his family. So that's why, when in present day, Stanley blames everything on his no good pig stealing great great grandfather. uh, this guy, this from this story, which is very much like a fairy tale when you think about it. You got this somebody who's betrothed to somebody else, and you got somebody else in love with that person, and they're trying to win their hand. They got to go through these trials, like, and Madame Zeroni plays the role of like the old sage or the witch. Elia's son, I believe, that's involved in the second uh, flashback story. It's in 1888. Green Lake is a flourishing Texas lakeside village. Catherine Barlow, a European American local school teacher famous for her spiced peaches, falls in love with Sam, an African American onion farmer. And she rejects the advances of Charles Walker, the richest man in town, who is nicknamed Trout because his feet smell like dead fish. So all these things intertwine with the present day story because they all factor into what happens in present day. Because Stanley and his friend Zero, who are both in this camp, they end up on the run and living off of these onions that Sam planted like years later, and and what they call splooch. It's made up of peaches. That's from Catherine, and so Catherine and Sam are seen kissing, and that's when the people burn down the school, and then her Sam ends up getting killed by her rival, his rival, my bad, Walker, who the warden at the camp that Stanley's staying at is actually the descendant of Walker. Turns out, so everything's connected. Everything's that's why I don't usually like non-linear storytelling, all the flashbacks and whatnot. But when everything's really intertwined like this, it makes for a really good satisfying read. By the end, when you see all the connections, you're like, oh, what? Like uh this happened and it gave way to this happening, and like, this person's connected to this person. Fate plays a, a crazy hand sometimes, like but it's satisfying though. Like, I can't describe it really, how satisfying the multi-layered plot uh like really becomes. Like, you have to read it and find out. If you haven't read this before, it's very complicated for complex, for a young adult book. I think that's why it took off so well, because it doesn't treat the reader like a moron, like or like an infant. It's more adult, it involves children. It feels more adult because like more there's more stakes than usual children's novels. Yeah, Catherine, after Sam gets killed, becomes an outlaw named Kissin' Kate Catherine, and Kissin' Kate Barlow, and so she leaves red lipstick on the cheeks of the men she kills, and Stanley actually finds her empty lipstick like years later in this camp, because they're all digging holes. That's the point of the novel, the title. They're all digging holes at this camp, and they're told it's to build character, but it's really because the warden is searching for Kate Barlow's supposed treasure, which they do find. Spoiler alert. So yeah, they get rewarded every time they find something. The kids, and Stanley believes his family is cursed because of the story, and Zero is actually the descendant of Madame Zeroni. They find out later. It's just such a fun read, and it's it touches on a lot of themes like illiteracy. Zero is taught to read by Stanley. That's how they really bond. Stanley's become like a mentor to him, and arranged marriage obviously is touched on. Homelessness, and then false accusations, false incarceration, racism. It's I think it's a very well crafted story, and children and adults alike can enjoy it. That's why everyone's flocked to it. It's won so many awards. I was looking up the list of awards, and it's won like at least 10 of them, and ranked sixth among all-time children's novels uh back in 2012. And there's a film adaptation, by the way. If you haven't seen that, it's great. It's one of those rare examples of a really good film adaptation of a novel, because they get everything just spot on, and the acting is great, and the just everything, the direction, and they don't really take away anything from the novel. Like, it actually kind of enhances the story, the visually, you know. So yeah, that's all I have to say about Holes, at least for now. I could always do a future video touching on it some more, but this is just a broad uh spectrum that I'm doing with these videos right now, because there's so many I want to talk about. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.